what does that number even mean? And he pointed at me and he said, now, that's what I'm looking for. You just worked all this math out and you did all this, but what does it even mean? And he says, you'll probably go pretty far in life just because you're asking the why. And I took that as it's okay to look wrong. It's okay to look silly. You need to, if you're around people that are going to make you, that are going to crush you for you asking questions and open to be corrected, you're in the wrong environment. You
Yeah.
got to find a place where you can challenge, you can ask silly questions, and you're just trying to figure out and you're just trying to learn. And so it's okay. You got to be humble and don't carry the ego along with you. If you get crushed, learn from it, pick yourself up, and keep going.
Hey, folks. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the 21st Century Engineer podcast. As you know, we're talking with individuals who have a perspective of what it means to be a mid career or even an entry level uh, career person in the civil infrastructure profession. All aspects, all ideas, and realistically, what we're trying to do here is provide educational resource to help you become the best version of yourself. And as we've said before, if you have a desire to get credit for this with regard to your license, just reach out and we'll work with you to see what we can do to make that. It is not hard. Do it all the time. Uh, 41 years in the faculty and 50 years in academia, not a problem. We can work that out. Anyway, today, former student of mine, but Josh came to us through a different pathway. Didn't even know it was the same Josh until somewhat recently. Josh has been actively engaged in the civil infrastructure area and has worked through various venues. And as such, I think you're going to find his story really interesting, particularly given his focus on what it takes for you to be successful, how you improve your mindset as much as your technical competence and your professional ethics, but it's your mindset about who you are, what you're about, and how you can succeed. Josh, thanks for being here. It's great to see you. Um, I'd say we need to sit down at the bar and have a drink or maybe a cup of coffee, whatever your adult beverage of choice would be. But unfortunately, you're a little farther north than I am, so we'll just have to hold that off to the next time we see each other face to face. But thanks.
Yes,
You
sir.
want to spend a few moments and kind of overview for the audience who you are, what you're about, and then we can get into our conversation.
Yes, sir. So graduated Mississippi State in 2012. Came out of the recession. It was hard to find a job during that time. Um, Applied to so many different firms around the Memphis area. This is where I'm from, and no one would even give me a call. It was just a time then. Today, people would pick you up in a heartbeat. Just at the time then.
Yeah.
So took a job. Just designing steel transmission lines. It was structures. I had no thought that I would ever be a structural engineer. I thought I was going to come out doing geotech, and just had to take a job. Had to start making some money. That's what I wanted to do. That didn't last very long. Ended up going through the ranks with working at other civil design firms around Memphis, and worked as a contractor for a little bit. Eventually got into land development, that's our primary focus right now. I found that land development is very, very challenging. Um, you don't have to, you're not a master of any of the different civil engineering focuses. I mean, you know all the different ones. This one, you have to know a little bit and a lot of bit about everything. And it's also challenging in the fact that it's got a lot of politics involved with it. The word I like to use for land development engineering is sanctifying. It reveals a lot about yourself. It's hard and it's challenging, and just by the time you think you got it figured out, you don't. And it's continuing to learn. But what we've learned is there's a lot of wasted cost in engineering and in the land development world. I don't know everything, and a lot of times we think we do, but I've learned you have to bring a lot of different people on staff, um, or around your project to make the best of the project. Because at the end of the day, we're serving the person, that we're building this product for, the public. What we try to do is blend planning and engineering together on the front end before entitlements are given or anything like that, so that we maximize the potential out of a piece of land.
Yeah.
And so that's just a brief overview. We'll get into that later, but that's what we do.
Yeah. Well, the idea of planning, designing, constructing, and maintaining is part of that entire infrastructure family.
Hmm.
And I do recall the early part of that decade, and for that matter, the end of the previous decade, the 2008s through 2012s, things did get tight fast,
Hmm.
and it was hard to find. In fact, the general rule of thumb in civil is that you'll see the developers come in and hire students or graduates first, and then you'll see the consultants come in next, and then you'll see the state come in next
Yeah.
as the first one rolls off. And there's always kind of a rolling prospect because of the diversity. The other piece is, of course, a lot of people think about disciplines where you come in and you study one thing. I mean, the degree you had 7 different areas that you had come through to equip you as a comprehensive, more generalist civil, so that you could do the things you talked about: construction to design to management, and where you are today, running a consulting firm. We probably didn't cover as much management as we'd liked, or that you would have liked. I don't know how much we would have liked, but anyway, it is good. Okay, well, let me jump into this, and
Okay.
here's kind of my backdoor question for you. I know you had me for the intro to civil class, and the conversation today is going to frame up in some ways around a video I showed in intro. The presenter was Simon Sinek, and Simon was talking about the why
Yep.
of who we are and what we should be about. Why people being the why being why people follow you, the why being the purpose, the why being your root, the why being that limbic brain part that just is the core.
Yep.
It's something you can't really put into words, but you're going to try to here in the next 30 minutes. But the fundamentals. Why is it that you're doing this? So my question for you: do you even remember that video?
I don't remember it then,
Yeah, that's what.
but
Thank you.
but
Go no further.
but
I just
somebody said it
I
to me.
just wanted to validate my incompetence as an instructor.
Yeah, yeah. Simon. So that would have been around 2008, and I don't even remember him being a viral dude in 2008. But
And he may not have been. I
yeah,
mean, if yeah, but it's still what we were talking about then, and obviously you've stumbled across and cored into it. Let's drill into that.
yeah,
That why is identifying who you are as a professional, and what it is. And I'm going to frame it up for you to start the conversation by saying, after, I'm going to say, 50 years in the profession, it's arguably been more if you want to go all the way back to when I first started working in this field as a student. Um, I have run across true professionals, and I have run across people with a professional engineering license who
yeah,
never practiced as a professional in a day of their life.
yeah,
Never a day.
yeah.
Can, what's your perspective? Have you found the same thing?
Yes, sir. To answer your first question about the why, that one video is kind of what set us on the track that we are right now. Um, I was asked that question. All right, why do we do what we do? I could answer the what, and I could answer the how very, very easily. But internally, I had to struggle with the why. Why am I a civil engineer? Why am I in land development? And to be honest with you, when I was first asked that question, my why was to be the best. And it's selfish, and it's too competitive, and it's not good at all. That should not be my answer. And I struggle with it on the inside. I'm like, I'm being honest with myself, and it's just to be the best, get glory. Like, who cares? Who cares about my glory at the end of the day? Because it's just vanity. But then I got to thinking about it. And here's my why. What we do now. I think there's a just an overall problem with the country and the way there's crime and there's this and there's that and all these different things that drag us as a nation down. And to me, it stems from one core issue that kids need to be around their parents, and moms and dads need to be the most influential person with kids. People will disagree with me on that, and that's okay. But I don't think government programs or elementary school training or anything like that is the answer. The best place for kids to learn from their parents is at home. And I don't think that parents should have to work overtime, 3 or 4 jobs to be apart from their home. So I get to help control the value of a lot that somebody's going to put a house on. Every move I make either increases the cost or it decreases the cost. So every $10,000 per lot that I add in construction cost, multiply that times five. You just added $50,000 to a house. Well, now put an 8% interest rate on top of that. Now you're looking at another $300 to $400 per month. That's a big deal to a family that is pinching pennies. So I'm on the front end. I'm the first one in the door, like kind of like a Marine Corps recon. We go in and analyze a site. Where can I cut the fat of this project to still make it work, but to bring those costs down exponentially? When I found that why, and that's why I get up every morning to do it, then everybody else, it's easy to talk about that because it's not about me. It's about the end user. So that
Yeah.
found my why I set out running.
Yeah, well, let me amplify 2 points because I think first you're a little denigrating of yourself at the beginning. You said why because you wanted to be the best. You just hadn't made the relationship that being the best means you can now do a better job for others.
Yeah,
So the why you want to be the best is at the end of the day because of your commitment
yeah,
to others, and that is affect the core of ethics.
yes, sir.
Understanding that as a professional, it becomes trite to say, when you look at your license, the first credo is protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public
Absolutely.
first and foremost. Now, what does that mean? First and foremost, it means before I may worry about a profit, before I worry about anything else, I've got to worry about the public that I'm serving or the client that I'm serving. It's not always municipal. And recognizing that I have to do my best job, I have to be ready to do a good job, and I have to be committed to doing a good job for them. And then my rewards will come as a result of that. And those rewards can be monetary. Let's not diminish the
Yes,
cost
sir.
issue. At the end
Absolutely.
of the day, each have bills to pay, and we can have a really great life at this job. A lot of people sacrificing themselves and giving away that the money piece. This is something I learned 25 years ago. I mean, there's a value in what we do. We give that value away all too
Absolutely.
often, and that's to our detriment. It's also the detriment to others. We need to attract better people to this business. We don't need to be attracting people that
Absolutely.
don't want to do the why, that just are well, whatever I can get to pay the bills and whatever. So, uh, with that, then let's talk a little bit about some of the hurdles that you've run into. That the why, I call it passion, but we'll stay with the word why. You have to have that passion. You have to have that dedication to the why to succeed. Um, can you think of an example where that's really helped you push through what would otherwise be something that might have stopped you?
Yeah. So our goal is for the end user to bring those lot costs down. I think a lot of the times when people buy a house, they don't realize what's gone into just getting the pad ready to get there. And with anything that gets in the way of our long-term goal of bringing costs down, we're going to challenge you. So there's environmental regulations that we think are erroneous. There's political things from just that get in the way, and you have to learn to navigate that. And when you first hit it, you're not ready for it, and it takes some time and it takes some experience. A lot of that though is learning how to navigate relationships and learn about people so that we're not always arguing about what's right and what's wrong. You don't get anywhere with that. Um, when I worked in the construction industry, we were a general contractor. I learned so much from being a contractor. But typically, the way I got things done is if you don't do what I ask you to do, I'll just hold your money. When you're a civil engineer, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You're working as a civil engineer. You're the one that's liable. You're the one that went off through all the school, but you're often regulated by people who don't have a license, who didn't do the same thing, and you think differently, and you have a different set of values, and um, all those things. When you run into them and challenge you, they shape you, and you can either get mad at it, you can either be a jerk, or you can learn to navigate it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for that matter, going back, drilling back down just a little bit on that, because we got only so much time, and we could probably spend the day talking. And maybe we'll get together and talk another time, and even let people listen. Who knows? Maybe it will be a cup of coffee or some other adult beverage. But at the end of the day, drilling down, one of the things that I think civil engineers need to be willing to do is recognize their value and recognize that responsibility, and therefore be willing to walk away. When the client says, I want you to do something that you know in your heart is wrong, you've
Yeah,
got to be willing to say, look, you're either doing it my way or I'm not doing it.
that's right. That's right. And you have to have a standard, a fixed position to come from that. And if somebody's wanting you to do something corrupt, you have to draw a line in the sand and say, I'm out.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's your license. I was in a battle with a regulator in Texas, TNRCC. We only allow you to build treatment plants using this, and this protocol. I said, I've got a better protocol, and I can show it to you, and this is
Yeah,
why. They
yeah.
didn't understand what I was saying. They hadn't been in
Oh,
my class, whatever.
that's
And
a
and ultimately, what I ended up was drew the line in the sand and said, look, whose license is on the design?
yeah.
If it's your license, I'll design it the way you want it. If it's my license, I'm designing it the way I want, and you'll approve it.
We run the same thing in Tennessee.
Yeah,
Same,
it
same
is.
exact same thing. Yeah,
Yeah, and in this case, and I'm sure for a lot of the cases you deal with, you win. Like, well, yeah, at the end of the day, maybe we don't know everything.
yeah.
Duh. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with that. Uh, Along this line, to kind of wrap it up, then, if you're working in an environment where you're running into this kind of obstacle and you're trying to find your why, any suggestions? I mean, I think about mentoring. I think about developing that service relationship you have with the community at large. Any suggestions?
Hmm. That's a hard question.
That's why I ask them.
Yeah, yeah. We're all different in engineering, and especially civil. I mean, there's traffic structures, dirt, water resources, all these different avenues, and then you go through the school, and I got to pick one, and I got to don't feel weird if you don't know. To be honest with you, I think there's a couple when you're in school that I didn't like. I didn't. I was good at structures, but
Yeah.
it's something I wanted to do. I couldn't stand traffic. That was my rule. I'm given two things that I know that I do not want to do. But I remember going through Dr. Soche's class, and man, I thought I was going to be a geotech, and I couldn't find a job in it. I mean, I loved it. I loved it so much. People called it weird from balancing the volume in the water and the soil all the time.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. But that I did not know even what land development was when I was in school. And it took a little bit of time to figure that out. And when I was confronted with it, I liked the challenge. I liked the relationship building. I wasn't good at it, but I liked it. And I've kind of gained experience in it. And it just takes time. I think people need to be encouraged that when you come out of school, you just got to go try something. And it's okay if you don't like it. And you can be honest with your boss and say, look, this is not my cup of tea. I'll go try something else.
I always advocate for finding a mentor that isn't the person that's writing your 3 month performance review. Somebody that you can look at and say, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know how, I don't know if, I don't know when, I don't know. And being able to admit there's limits and bounds to your knowledge. And that's hard to do when the person that you're asking or expected to ask is the person that's going to be deciding what your bonus is or what your paycheck's going to be or whether you even continue to be employed, depending upon the why. So, did you have somebody that you had? I mean, for me, I've always advocated for involvement in professional organizations, networking with peers at section meetings at ASE or chapter meetings for one of the other organizations, and developing friends
Yeah,
that you can sit down and have that beer with and talk about. I got a problem.
yeah,
Did
yeah.
you have somebody like that?
So you hit something. You hit something that's very, very important about somebody saying, "I don't know," and I'm wrong, or I'm sorry. Engineers typically don't do that because it's a very unforgiving world. If you make a mistake and somebody builds it, it's very, very expensive. So there's not much grace and not much mercy. Um, to find that empathetic mentor who's gonna correct you when you make a mistake and not crush you, who's gonna keep you encouraged and is open to talk things out to teach you. That is a I find that a rare thing in this field. Um, I think we've all had mentors, but a lot of times you end up talking about what's right and what's wrong versus building you up as a person and remembering that you're a person first. And we all have different personalities. You, and you do have different technical aspects that you got to find, but primarily is what you nailed on. You got to find that culture and you got to find that person who's going to mentor you and shape you into the better you. I found that now where I am, I have that, and I'm very, very fortunate. I've had some technical mentors, but now I've got a team of older men, and I've had some along the way. But the group that I'm around now is the perfect fit, and I'm blessed to have it. I know not everybody has that,
Yeah. Well, and my avocation to you is, of course, then look for opportunities for you to mentor those that are coming behind you.
and
Whether they work with you or in some other environment, it doesn't even have to be with regard to engineering.
that's
We
true.
all need help. We all need support. Uh, First place we look at, going back to what you said at the very beginning, is you look at your parents.
Yeah,
I know when I was running for ASC office, somebody asked me, "Who were your mentors in your life?" And it really was hard for me to get it out emotionally, but I did have to, in that instant, acknowledge that my mother and my father were my first and most important mentors in my life. And of course, then there were the professional mentors that I'd had in the paths that followed. Excuse me, followed. Uh, Obviously, part of this process is being able to communicate,
yeah,
and we've said for decades that communication is one of the things engineers don't do, whether it be written or oral. I know when we were redesigning the undergraduate program at State back several decades ago, we had to decide between oral communication and written communication. We opted for the written communication, tech writing, as we called it, and I was one of the ones that spoke up and said, the oral communication is just as important,
yeah,
maybe more so.
so much so.
And one of the other faculty members said, "Yeah, but the oral communications class they're taking here, where they take it, they come out, they don't communicate any better. They don't speak any better." Is basically the way he said it than
Yeah,
when he went in. So, well, that doesn't take any away from the importance. So, what's your take on the role of communication in engineering success?
it's paramount, and it's a struggle for me, I think it's a struggle for a lot of us. You'll notice behind me, I've got a lot
Do
of
you have a
books.
reason for that? I'm going to let you continue with your thought, but do you have a reason for that? Why do
Why?
you think it's such a struggle?
I think naturally we're just introverted, and introverted doesn't mean that you're weird. It just means you
Or a nerd?
or a nerd. It just means you have to think about what you're going to say before you speak it. And like an extrovert, he's thinking and speaking at the same time. He hears himself talk, and that's how he thinks.
Yeah,
That type
we
of
call
person,
them fools. Yeah.
yeah, you have to sit back and let him finish his thought. And it's really good for an introverted person like me. With an extrovert, I'm just going to let you talk, and I gather information, I'm processing, and then I'll speak. But there's so many different communicate. Like all the books behind me are all communication books that I have, just because I realize it's not something that I'm naturally good at. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When I was in school at Mississippi State, I came back home. My brother's playing football in high school, and my aunt asked me, "How's school going?" I looked her right in the eye and I said, "Good." And I turned and I continued to watch the game. I didn't think anything about it, but I didn't elaborate. I didn't engage in that conversation at the time. And my wife, she's very witty, she's outgoing. So it's funny how I've meet, and she's helped me help that come out of me. I'm around people now that help me communicate because if I can't get out of my head to a developer or a planning commission member or a mayor or a contractor, I just wasted my time. I have to be able to communicate it visually on plans, written documentation. AI is very helpful with that, by the way. So if people struggle writing letters, I encourage you to go to AI and help. But my advice to all engineers is you need to start learning how to communicate now. And it's not just about it's the relationship, learning different personalities, but it's also rhetoric. And I didn't even know what rhetoric was till a couple of years ago. The Greeks used to do this all the time. They would sit in great circles and they would just talk. And the art of persuasion. It's not to manipulate, not to deceive, but you have to sell your point. You're going to get in disagreements. You're going to get in arguments. You're going to have right and wrong moments. And you have to be able to convince somebody your idea without making them mad. And this also is in leadership as well. Your guys have to trust you and depend on you, and you can't crush them, but you still have to lead them. So communication is huge.
Well, and it's in that way that you also get validation. My wife often jokes with me. I'll sit there and talk with the inanimate object, um, and it's really my debating with myself about the inanimate object more so than trying to convince the inanimate object that I'm right and it should do what I want it to do. So, but it's that openness, and of course, I've never been accused of being an introvert, though there's certainly a part of that, but there's that idea of being able to have a conversation. I enjoy a good conversation. We don't have to agree,
Yeah,
but the fact is that we can sit down and have that, your term, rhetoric, where we voice perspectives in a respectful way
absolutely.
and learn from that conversation. Doesn't mean that you're going to change my mind or I'm going to change yours, but and it's not that it's going to try it again to agree to disagree. I hate that statement.
Yeah,
It's agree to learn. It's agree to think critically. It's
yeah.
agree to look at other perspectives on the idea that realistically I never know what I don't know.
Mhm.
So help me know. And in that learning, we grow. We get validation. We get perspective. Let's go back to the introvert thing for just a little while. Um, there's always that there's a lot of accusation, a lot of cartoons about engineers being introverts. Most of them are written by some electrical engineer, and we won't go into what electrical engineers are with regard to civils. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, people go do your Google homework. But anyway, well, I mean, after all, we all have the internet today. Why am I having to tell you all the answers?
There you
Or
go.
why do you have to tell them all the answers? They can do some of their own homework. But the idea here is that as an introvert, you said your tendency would be to, not is, would be to sit back and let the extrovert or whomever, the person that's willing to talk freely and openly, maybe with some background, maybe not,
Yeah.
and sit back and just let them do it.
Yep.
For what it's worth, one of the nicest compliments I ever had was in a meeting. I was making a proposal to a county supervisors, and one of the individuals noted that in all the conversations that have been had, I hadn't said a word, and I was supposed to be the expert.
I love that.
And he did comment so much on that I hadn't spoken. He commented on the fact that I was obviously the most intelligent person in the room.
Nailed it.
Literally the way he put it. And I said, "Yeah, I'm listening to what your vision is,
Yep.
so that I know what my solution needs to be."
Nailed it. Yep.
And that's what I hear you saying. What's your perspectives on that?
Yeah, I share the same compliment. I was told that one time in a room as well, and I loved it. I wasn't trying to show off or anything. I'm actively listening, and I think if you are introverted, the person winning the conversation and controlling it is the one listening and gathering all the information. So be encouraged that if you are that type, you're a leg up in the conversation. But The question is about being introverted and ego and stuff like that. Is that what we're talking about? Okay.
Yep.
So this is a theory of mine. I very well could be wrong, but engineers they're very smart. They are able to do things in their head and excel really well, and they rise to the top. Well, that makes your mama really, really proud. And you're told as a young man all the way up that, oh, you're my sweet little boy, or you're my sweet little girl. Look how smart you are. And typically, you do well in high school. You're at the top, and you're used to being told, "Good job, attaboy," and you get the encouragement and you get the praise. That's what you're used to, and it becomes addictive. Then you go to college, and then everyone else is mama's sweet little boy, just like you. Now you're in a college classroom with a professor, and he's asking questions, and you say at the end of the class, I'll never forget this in Mississippi State. I think I was in the paving class or something. Um, working out this big long pavement problem, and at the end of it, he gets this number. I think he was doing the structural number of pavement or something like that. And he says, "Any questions?" And does that make sense? And no one raises their hand. No one says anything because no one wants to look dumb, because you're used to getting it right. And
Yeah.
I was like, mess on this, man. What what does that number even mean? And he pointed at me and he said, "Now, that's what I'm looking for. You just worked all this math out and you did all this, but what does it even mean?" And he says, "You'll probably go pretty far in life just because you're asking the why." And I took that as it's okay to look wrong. It's okay to look silly. You need to, if you're around people that are going to that are going to crush you for you asking questions and open to be corrected, you're in the wrong environment. You
Yeah.
gotta find a place where you can challenge, you can ask silly questions, and you're just trying to figure out and you're just trying to learn. And so it's okay. You got to be humble and don't carry the ego along with you. If you get crushed, learn from it, pick yourself up, and keep going.
Yeah, the current instructional pedagogy is, and again, this came after you in many ways. And though I'd been saying it for a large part in most of my classes, which was for me, there was only two wrong. There are only two questions that are wrong. One, the one you won't ask,
Yeah,
and the second one, the one I just answered.
yeah, yeah,
But but realistically, that idea of and you say it, and I'll go with it. The idea that don't have an ego that's so big that you won't admit that you don't know,
yeah,
or that maybe even better, you found out that you were wrong and
yeah,
something needs to be changed.
yeah. That's wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I remember having to walk into a class that I had just spent an entire two sessions teaching a process on, and discovered that the instructor who taught me when I was going through school how to do this was completely wrong. He was wrong. I had been taught wrong. I had been teaching wrong. And I had to walk into the class and say, folks, there's what we were just talking about. Forget it. This is the way you go about it. And then you have to walk in and admit, hey,
Yeah,
there's a better way, or there's a correct way, or whatever. So, and it does. It can be ego damaging, but at the same time, you got to recognize you got a responsibility to tell that story.
hmm,
And more importantly, as I know you've heard, you learn more from your mistakes than you learn from your successes.
oh man,
All
absolutely.
the consulting I did, I kept asking people, do a postmortem. You
Yeah,
design a project, it gets built, and you go away. And you go away because nobody died and the problem seemed to go away. Did it go away because you got it right? Or did it go away because you did something that was close enough to right
yeah,
that it got covered up for now? Is there a problem that's coming up in the future because you didn't do it right? So repeat your analysis,
yeah.
reevaluate, do a postmortem, and I always did. And on the projects I did, to the extent I could. Sometimes people didn't want to share their data, but that sometimes they were proud of the data. Design a wastewater treatment plant that has a zero contaminant discharge. I still wonder about that lab test.
Yeah,
But anyway, yeah, it shouldn't have happened.
yeah.
I mean, I know I'm good, but it wasn't that
Yeah,
good.
not that good.
Yeah. Anyway, at least not on that system. But anyway, um, let's slide over into another conversation, and that's what I'll frame as engineering value. You
Yep.
know, we talk about the community, we talk about the client, which sometimes is the same, sometimes not, and then we talk about the provision, the profession,
Yep.
and my argument is, as we mentioned briefly before, and then also before we got into recording, is that I don't think engineers value themselves enough,
Mm.
and therefore the community and the client don't necessarily value us. And I'll take ownership of this. This is not your generation, but my generation was brought up to never tell anybody how successful you were.
Huh.
It was considered being self laudatory, and that's not professional horse manure. Anyway, I'm just the idea is we need to let people know what it is we do and how valuable we are.
Yeah.
And there can be some monetary benefits as to doing that. But I'd like to get your take on it because this is obviously something you're having to deal with on a regular basis. I mean, there are a lot of people that are out here building homes on lots that aren't doing the development work that you're doing, the engineering that you're doing to make sure that the home is built the best way it possibly can, the land's developed with respect to natural resources, and that the costs and resources are kept used in an optimal way to minimize the ultimate impact. Where are you on all this?
Yeah, and it was when everything is rocking and rolling from an economy standpoint, you really don't ever have to question what you're doing because everything is working just
Yeah, yeah,
right now. It's different. Everyone's kind of tightened up a lot just because we don't know where the economy is going to go. There's not a confidence in purchasing anything at this moment.
yeah, yeah.
But also, we live in West Tennessee, where Blue Oval City, the Ford plant, is moving down, and it's going to bring 20,000 jobs to West Tennessee. But they only make so much money. So if you're at Mississippi State and you're doing a give and find solution, the given is this is how much they make, this is how much they can afford. I know that. I also know construction costs have inflated. I know that. So there's at the end of the day, I've got to be able to create a quality home, not Section 8, a quality development that fits, that they can afford, and balances on a developer's pro forma. Everybody's got to walk away at the end of the day and make money. You can't give away things for free, but it's all got to work. Well, who controls the cost? Is it the contractor? Is it the county? No, it's the civil engineer. At the
Right,
end of the day, he's the
right,
one that controls that entire process. And typically, on a developer's pro forma, civil engineering is towards the bottom. It costs more. It costs more per lot for dirt than you for dirt just dirt grading than that engineer is. But he controls all the dirt that's going to be moved.
yeah.
So you have to find somebody. You don't want to be cheap with your engineers. What I'm trying to say, there are there engineers that will do a job for cheap, but they
You
go ahead.
you get what you pay for. You never get what you don't pay for.
Yeah,
You
but
don't always get what you pay for, but you should. But you
sure,
never get what you don't pay for.
sure. But sometimes people think the more lots that I show on a piece of property, the more money I make, or the less the cost is going to be, and I can balance it up. That's not true.
Mm,
The, you have to work with the topography. You have to work with natural resources like streams and wetlands and lakes and all these different things. Well,
right,
typically when a plan is entitled, it's done by a planner. Planners are very smart and they're very creative, and they know about view sheds and road alignments and what houses look like. Things that you and I mean, we care about, but that's just not our forte. I want the thing to stand there forever and work, and I'm also thinking about the finances.
good for you.
But as a civil engineer, I'm not the best with view sheds. I'm not the best with balancing commercial. I just don't know how to do it. But if you,
You will.
well, when you blend the two, when you take a planner's expertise and then you take an engineer's expertise and you do it on the front end where you're all right, I'm going to use detention as an amenity now. Here's planner. I want you to run this road up here because this is the best route for sewer. Don't put it where you think it's going to be because
Right.
you may have just put it on a big field. Now I got to move all this dirt from here up there. We're wasting time. So
Absolutely.
it's mixing art and science together to make the math work. to bring those costs down. We will not get it entitled until I know it's going to work and that somebody can afford it.
That's great. I mean, when you talk, and the way I frame it, because of the way I got into this industry, we talk about a transportation corridor.
Yeah,
No, it's not a sewer easement, it's not a water line easement, it's not a telecommunications or power easement to a road. It's the fact that all of this is a transportation corridor. The road, the water, the electrical, the telecommunications, everything all gets put together at the same time in a way that optimizes the construction,
yeah,
optimizes the maintenance, the operation, the protection, so that the people that live there gain the maximum benefit, and take it to the next level. Not even in your environment, but in all environments. What we do in engineering, you know, if we do our job right,
yeah,
the project's going to go smoother. It's going to cost less, and the outcome's going to be better. It
yeah.
doesn't matter what the project is. I have worked with engineers who did a sloppy job of
Hmm.
putting their plans together, and that means the contractor's looking at it going, "Hey, I have to do part of the design. I'm bearing more of the risk. I don't, there's more unknowns associated with the project. I'm going to charge more.
Yeah,
My bid on this is going to be higher.
yeah,
My percentages are going to be higher." So right out of the gate, and then you get into all the change orders that come as a result of all of that, and it only escalates.
yeah,
And all it took was the engineer doing their job right at the beginning. And you said it correctly, and I applaud you for it. It's not just saying, okay, this is what I'm going to design. It's the planning piece.
hmm,
It's being involved in planning and saying, hey, maybe there's a better way. Maybe there's a better place for that road to be.
yeah,
If we look in a bigger picture, maybe there's a better place for this parcel to be. Maybe
yeah,
there's a better way of building of types of whatever. There's a being part of the planning, thinking about what the options are,
yeah. And if
and and leaving you the optimum, the best options to come up with the best solutions.
Yeah, and if let's say a developer or a city spends $20,000 extra that they budgeted for in engineering and planning, but that move saved $500,000 in construction costs.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're talking. Yeah,
And we've done that. That's what I was telling this developer I work with. I said, if you would let me come on and don't rush me, don't put me on a deadline to meet a planning commission meeting. Don't do that to me. Let me play with it, and
yeah,
I promise you, I will offset my cost in the construction cost that I save you.
yeah,
And the test go. One project was $500,000. That was 2 weeks of time. He $15,000. He got 500,000 back. There was another one. We saved 1.3 million. This is all in a 2 year period. Where if you just let us play with it a little bit and find that optimum, we will reduce costs significantly, and
yeah.
that's fun.
And in that same breath, Josh, I'll advocate for the idea that because you're saving, and I'm just going to use round numbers, if I can save you $1 million, should I give that to you for free?
No,
Or because of my expertise and my ability, should I not capture some of the value that I'm giving you? So,
yeah,
I mean, I recognize, it'd be nice to say, well, I'm going to take the whole million and do it my way, and you won't see a difference in cost, and it still be a better product at the end of the day.
yeah,
But no, you're again, part of this is keeping the cost down. So the idea is, let's share in the. I'll take a bigger pay cut, or a bigger paycheck, excuse me, but you're still coming way ahead. The analogy that I'll give you, again, personal, is that when I had my company, we were going in and designing facilities. Uh, I literally tripled my consulting rate on the I mean, overnight, and I was able to do it because, and this is truth, the way the numbers ran. At my old rate, we came in, redesigned the system. The system went online, and the savings in operational costs and power costs and maintenance costs were such that they paid for the new project in a month.
yeah,
I came in and said, "Wait, this is crazy. I'm giving this away. We're giving this away."
yeah,
I tripled my fee. Now they could pay for it in 3 months.
yeah,
It was a 20-year design life. So, okay, you paid a little bit more for it on the front end, but at the end of the day, And that's why I talk about, I'm going to wrap my part of this and we're going to need to wrap the conversation. Life cycle cost analysis, LCCA, the total cost, the true total cost of a project, cradle to grave, good environmental term, and being able to assure that while I may spend a little bit more on the front end, both in terms of the cost of planning and design and in construction, and I don't mean fees as much as just the whole package. At the end of the day, the total cost is better, better quality of life, better outcome, better project results. Time to wrap it up, I guess. At least for this issue of 21st Century Engineer. Any parting thoughts, Josh?
Oh, this was fun, and I want to encourage the people that are considering civil engineering. It's a fun thing. It's and we're trying to make sure that we're all valued right and trying to get this thing right, so that we can have a long haul. I think there's some good times coming in the next 10 years, and with development and growth and construction, it should be a fun time, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Super. I agree completely. One caveat I'll say it's going to be a fun time for those people that are prepared, those people that are subject area experts, those people that know what they're doing, those people that don't settle for being just good enough, doing the minimum,
That's
but
right.
looking for ways of growing and exceeding and going back to the earlier part of the conversation, mentoring those,
That's
helping them grow and be the best version of a civil engineer they want to be,
yeah.
whatever that may represent for them. You're finding that, you're doing that, and I applaud you for it. Couldn't be more proud of you. Congratulations. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up, folks. This is another edition of 21st Century Engineer. I hope you found it as enlightening and beneficial. The time that you've invested with Josh and I today, I hope you find that return dividends today, tomorrow, and for years to come. Other than that, hope to see you next time. Take care.